Superhero Stuff You Should Know is part of the Greenlit Podcast Network.
Hey, this is Ben from Superhero Stuff You Should Know, and I have an important announcement for you guys. At the end of every single episode of Superhero Stuff You Should Know, you might hear us shout out to our fans, one of whom is Matt Herring, who was one of the original Superhouse fans. He's always given us his support, and now it's time that we support him. We've just recently found out that Matt has been diagnosed with stage 4 colon cancer. And as a cancer survivor myself, I know personally that there's a lot of emotional and financial strain that comes into that. His wife, Kelly, has set up a GoFundMe account at gofundme.com/f/Matthew-kicks-cancer039s-butt. And hopefully you can help reduce the financial strain to that, as well as some of the emotional strain that comes with that. Again, that's gofundme.com/f/Matthew-kicks-cancer039s-butt.
Matt Herring was the first, I guess you could say, true Superhouse fan. We were Superhouse at that time. You know, the first fan of this podcast and what we do here, and has always supported us, talked about us, and he's from a town close to where I'm from, and so we share that as well, and just a huge superhero fan, and, you know, nerd like the rest of us, and now he's going through that, and if you could donate just at least any amount of money to that link that Ben just said, that would be truly appreciated. Just hang in there, Matt. You'll beat this thing soon.
All right, Zod. The planet is going to absolute shit. We've got volcanoes exploding every fucking day. And the weather is going absolutely apey. I believe that the planet is about to explode very soon. And it's a good thing that I have had sex naturally for the first time in our planet's history in 400 years.
Heresy! How could you do such a thing, Jor?
Well, it was very easy, actually, since it's been so very long. I mean, for anybody, but it's been so long. I was done in 3 seconds. It was incredible. Laura got pregnant in 2 seconds, I think.
The process alone, it's heresy, Jor. Just the act of...
No, the process was easy. It was just a whole flood. The floodgates are open, as it were. I think that's just I had a lot of swimmers in there.
I would never do such a thing. I would never take my fingernail and put it through a woman's ear to inject the sperm through there.
Wait,
It's heresy.
Wait, could you repeat that one more time?
I said I would never take my fingernail, or maybe it's the toenail, and put it through a woman's ear, or maybe it's the nostril. I don't know. Either way, it's disgusting, Jor. It's disgusting. It's a painful process.
Were you not ever taught the Kryptonian birds and bees in history class?
I didn't take history class. I was bred to serve one purpose, and one purpose only: to protect Krypton. I didn't take school. I was just trained.
You never had any kind of inkling for anything taboo?
Not anything as disgusting as sexual intercourse.
Well, it's not really that disgusting, mate. It seems like you don't know how it works.
I know how sex works. I'm a general of the Kryptonian army. You think there's anything I don't know about?
You put your winky in her wanky.
I don't even know what that means. That doesn't even sound like real Kryptonian.
It's in the codex. It says winky and winky, page 3.
Oh, maybe if you didn't put the codex in your son, I would be able to read and learn about sex.
I didn't put anything in my son. Oh, yes, I did do that. But that's different. So you put your penis into the vagina. That's how it works, mate.
You put actually...
There's no nostrils involved for most people. And there's no fingers necessarily either. The winky in the wanky. Penis in the vagina.
Winky in the wanky?
Well, since there's not much time left, I think that, it's time to break some Kryptonian rules. Be a rebel. Faora. How about her?
Don't be disgusting. Faora is my lieutenant. Nothing more. Though, she does look pretty good.
I mean, the armor doesn't do anything for you. A woman in uniform.
I haven't thought about it yet.
Well...
It's not part of my purpose.
Well, you could go and maybe, forget the purpose for a moment and think about another purpose. And if if she's into it, could be good.
So you're saying this is actually a pleasurable experience?
Very pleasurable, mate. I just wish it lasted longer. But we did it more than one time, so it's okay. I don't really know which time got her pregnant, but anyway, my son's got freedom now. Because that's logic, mate. See what she says. Hopefully she doesn't burn you at the Kryptonian stake.
You know what, Jor? The planet's ending, so what the hell? I'm pretty sure I got her number somewhere. Thanks, my friend.
No problem. Maybe you'll loosen up a bit. Just remember, I'll give you the codex. Remember page 3, the tale of the Winky and the Wanky. Explains everything. I was confused a bit at first myself, but there you go. Oh, actually, I've got it right here. Here you go. There it is. I don't give a fuck if it's sacred or not. The planet's ending soon anyway, so my son's gonna live. No one else is gonna live. Spoilers, but we're all dead.
Faora.
Yes?
My Winky and your Wanky. What say you?
Nope.
And thanks to Cookie Noms for playing Faora in that sketch. You can follow her at Instagram at Cookie Noms, KOOKIENOMZ.
Welcome, my friends, to Krypton as we finally dive into Man of Steel. We've been waiting for this for a long time. This is, as usual, Ben, and with me in his black Superman shirt is
Lord,
my co-host.
Lord, the time has come here today to finally open up this can of worms. Are you ready, Internet, for this bullshit? One of the most controversial, superhero movies of all time. The beginning of the Snyder fandom, and in
Yes.
earnest, really starts here. It's Andrew. Thanks for the intro, Ben.
Yep, no problem. And as you guys have noticed, we have gone from the Christopher Reeve Superman, skipped ahead to Snyder's and Henry Cavill's Man of Steel. Don't worry, we will be covering the other Christopher Reeve movies. We just decided with the Snyder Cut on its way, it's time for us to jump forward into the DCEU and really cover in depth the Zack Snyder superhero films, starting with Man of Steel. And yes, we will be going into Batman vs. Superman, Dawn of Justice, and then the Snyder Cut when it comes out in March.
Before all the major Snyder news, I talked with Ben, and I was like, we could do Superman 3 and 4, totally. But how about we just skip to Man of Steel and just kind of get that out of the way? And he was like, you were like, yeah, sounds good.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And then now with the Snyder Cut coming, I'm just like, all right, let's just skip Superman 2. We
Yeah.
can always go back to Superman 2.
Oh, I forgot we
And
haven't
go back to
done
this.
that one yet. God damn it. Yes.
But, oh well. So we decided, here's our take on this, because it's like, well, here's yet another discussion on Man of Steel. But I thought what would be interesting is that, well, the Dark Knight trilogy before, when we covered it, it was very much about how accurate really was the Dark Knight trilogy and which did we prefer, the comics or Nolan's creative decisions. I decided to do a similar take, but not on Zack Snyder versus comics, because it's very much based on the comics, but because of the nature of these films being very divisive, especially Man of Steel and Batman v Superman, Dawn of Justice, we decided we would pit the movie the Snyder's creative decisions. Now that we know a lot more in depth, we've taken some time to get to know more of the movie, as well as Snyder has his director's commentary on Vero up on YouTube. Pit his original ideas up against the common criticisms and say, do we agree or do we disagree? So this is Man of Steel, Zack Snyder versus the critics, part 1.
It's a fucking title fight here, pretty much.
Yes.
That's what it feels like.
Yeah, so we'll basically come to a part that was commonly criticized among fans, among critics, and then say, okay, here's what Snyder intended, and here's what the critics say. Where do we fall on that? And we're going to vote, and over the course of our entire coverage, we'll eventually tally it up and see what wins out for Man of Steel, at least. And we'll do the same for Batman vs. Superman, Dawn of Justice.
Yes. Sounds great.
I'm excited, but before we dive in, I thought I would take some time to do a bit of corrections department on myself on Batman
shit.
Soul of the Dragon. It has not even been released yet, but when I re-listened to the episode, I was like, oh, that was kind of weird.
I
that
was
said
wrong.
that. So first off, I said David Giuntoli and his current wife Bitsy Tulloch met on the set of a show called Greed. The show is called Grimm. I don't know why I said Greed.
I know Grimm, but I just didn't. There could be a show called Greed too. I don't know.
Yeah. So they met on Grimm. I also said that the bouncer in the movie was based off of Robert Hall, where the actor's name was Robert Wall, who played O'Hara in Enter the Dragon.
You idiot.
I fucked up. This will be my last episode.
Oh, man.
And,
You're
I said, I quit.
I quit. I'm out of here.
You're on your own, Andrew.
God damn it. It wouldn't be the first time. He'd go back to a few episodes of this podcast.
Yes. And I also said years later, they found out the O-Sensei's wife was lost at sea. I meant years earlier, the O-Sensei's wife was lost at sea before he decided to join her at sea. Though I think in the context of it, you could probably get what I meant in that. But that is... that's Soul of the Dragon, me correcting my own fuck-ups before any of you guys get to that. So you heard it here first, guys. If you guys have the comments on Soul of the Dragon, I have not seen them yet because we have not released it as of this recording, but we'll probably have comments that come in later on that we can address in future episodes. So
Okay.
that's cool with me. So back to Man of Steel.
Okay.
I thought that I would hand the baton over to you, Andrew, because I know that you wanted to share something about your experiences with this.
Okay, so I've talked about this in other Superman episodes, but I'm going to do it a little bit more elaborated this time around. If you've been listening to the podcast for a while, you've probably heard some of this, but there's always a new listener. So, and there might come a day where I won't ever talk about this again. But for right now, I did have a little thing about this. So, as you can see here, I have my limited edition Man of Steel Blu-ray set. I don't know what you call it, Blu-ray. It even has like the numbers here. There were only 50,000 made of this run. So even though I've been, very opinionated about this movie in the past, especially during our Chris Reeve run, or when we talked about Superman 78, I had a lot to say about it. But this movie does hold a special place in my heart. This was probably the movie that affected me the most and was actually mostly positive. I started working out a lot after even just seeing the trailer. I was working out like 2 hours a day. There was a gym right next to my work, so that helped a lot. I even bought Warby Parker glasses. Those were a kind of like tie-in to the movie at the time. Cavill does wear Warby Parkers. I didn't get the actual Cavill model, but I did try them on. But they just didn't fit my face. So I got something else, but they were Warby Parker. So there was just something about this trailer. Before I even saw the movie, of course, I see the trailer, and there's something about the trailer that really did it for me. People talk about how good trailer 3 was for this movie in particular. I would have to agree. I had started making all these changes to my life and whatever before I even saw the movie. The trailer alone was powerful enough for me at that time. Mark Waid talks about how seeing Superman 78 in the theater changed his life for the better. Even though Man of Steel and Superman 78 are totally different movies, I still feel like I had something happen to me when watching the trailers and finally the movie that was similar to what happened to Mark Waid. And I think that's kind of a testament to Superman himself, not just the movies in particular, but there's just something about that character that really affects people. I had not grown up watching a lot of Superman stuff, actually. How this movie and Superman affected me took me totally by surprise. I wasn't expecting this reaction at all. I have no nostalgia really for Superman. I think I only saw clips of the Reeves one growing up. I don't think I really saw it in earnest until just before we started talking about it on the podcast, like actually sat down and watched it. And I didn't watch the animated show in the 90s. So it's weird. Superman kind of became this hero for me as an adult, not something I'm nostalgic about from the past. So that's different for me. And like I've said in many other episodes here on the show, I was taken aback by the trailer. Not only did I buy a lot more Superman shirts, I went to Reddit and found out about the top Superman runs of all time and read almost all of them listed there on Our Superman. I've taken a lot of time thinking about why that movie affected me so much at that time, and I basically come to this conclusion. I had been an atheist for almost 10 years at that point, and I know it sounds strange, but I felt a sense of the grand that I hadn't felt since I'd been in church, really. I actually appreciated the fact that I could follow some of these ideals and get a kind of similar feeling without all the religion. It would still feel basically the same, even knowing Superman isn't real. I was also at one of the poorest times in my life, and I was just kind of having a rough go of it in LA, and that was probably a factor as well. When the movie did come out, I really did like it a lot. It had its problems, but I didn't notice some of them at first. I was too emotionally involved. I was horrified to come back home after the movie to see that it had gotten only a 56% on Rotten Tomatoes. I couldn't believe it. I had never actually even thought about city destruction before in comic book movies like that. So it just wasn't something I actually considered at the time. I know that sounds weird, but I know many of you out there are, judging movies like that is probably second nature to you, but I just hadn't thought about it at that time. Now we are several years after the fact. It is a movie I still defend from time to time, even though I too make fun of it at times, as you all well know. It depends on the issue, actually, how I defend it, what they're talking about. But anyway, I think that even though there are many people that don't like Man of Steel or even Superman, I guess I just wanted people to know that there are fans out there like me, and if there's anyone else out there like me, I guess, I hope you find this video well. Thank you. So that's...
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. From my perspective, I kind of feel at sometimes, and I'm glad that we're doing this, I kind of feel sort of underrepresented by what is usually on the internet. You usually see two camps. Right?
Yeah.
You usually see the hardcore Zack Snyder, release the Snyder Cut movement lovers, and you see the haters who are just like, Zack Snyder can't direct shit, there's no emotion and all that. And I'm very much in between, where I'm like, I admit we were not originally part of the original release the Snyder Cut movement before.
Yeah.
And that was before all the news leaked out about what really happened with Joss Whedon, how much Snyder's stuff was actually going to be, all the different characters were cut. That was way beforehand when that first started coming out. When it was very first coming out, I was like, maybe, maybe not. Because from my perspective, I know Zack Snyder is through and through. He's a comic book guy. And there's a lot of comic book influences in this, and that's undeniable. It's completely undeniable. He's, 300 was a straight adaptation. Watchmen, I actually enjoyed as a Watchmen fan, and I think when it comes to the DC movies with Man of Steel, Batman vs. Superman, he has a lot of fantastic ideas. And some of them I appreciate more than others, and others I'm just like, I get where you're going with it, but I don't think it was executed as well as it could have been or should have been in order for everyone else to sort of either get it or get the same emotional effect that he was going for.
Right.
So for me, I'm very much in between, which is kind of why we're doing this, where I want to say like, hey, I actually like this part, or hey, I agree with the critics on this other part, because I feel like there's not a lot of room, especially these guys, it feels like, in the fandom for somebody to be just fair and trying to be unbiased,
Yeah.
A lot of the Snyder fans categorize the Man of Steel critics as people who just wanted the Donner Superman all over again. And I know for a fact I didn't want that, because I had already seen Superman the movie several times at that point. I didn't need to see another version of it. In fact, that was one of my main problems with Superman Returns in general, was like it was just it was Superman the movie remade, pretty much.
It's weird too, because it might have been just timing in my life, but I saw Superman Returns in the theater, obviously, and I liked it enough at the time. I don't hate it as much as the internet seems to, but maybe it's just timing for me, but Man of Steel just really affected me.
Yeah.
It just, I don't know what it was, man, really. Other than the stuff I already talked about.
Right. Yeah. I mean, every now and then there's something that comes along where that happens. I think for you it was Man of Steel. For me, it was probably the Batman Begins or Dark Knight or both. And those affected you too. I know.
Yeah, they did.
Dark Knight.
They did.
For me, I had wanted something that was closer to Birthright, if, Mark Waid's Birthright, if Snyder had just done a straight adaptation of that, I would have loved it even more. Ironically, I think Man of Steel actually lifts a lot from Richard Donner that a lot of people don't talk about. Not necessarily in a rip-off way, but more of just like, hey, like, everybody's like, Man of Steel gets criticized because it's not Richard Donner. I'm like, well, there's actually a lot of Richard Donner Superman in this.
It's hard
already.
to get away from it.
Yeah, it's hard to get away from it. And he still builds off of that. But for me, it had nothing to do with whether or not he was like the Christopher Reeve Superman or if it was like the 1978 movie.
Right.
I also think during this time, Man of Steel kind of has this expectation that it doesn't quite live up to, which is to completely reinvigorate Superman in the public mind. Because if you think about it, Batman Begins and Dark Knight did this huge thing where it went from like, oh, look at these silly Batman movies from the Joel Schumacher era. They're just, these popcorn fluff, and they actually turn it around, and now Batman is a hugely popular character because of what Chris Nolan did and because of the fact that it meant that Batman equals quality movies.
Right.
Depending on, regardless of your own opinion of how well those were executed, you can't deny that it was a huge cultural phenomenon for the Batman character and for superhero movies.
Yeah.
And I feel like Man of Steel kind of went in with this pressure of you have to do the same thing for Superman. You have to change the perceptions of Superman as being too powerful and too boring. And
they hate him. Returns. I mean, Returns was shit on.
Yeah.
Left and right.
Returns was shit on, and I feel like this movie overcompensates for the big criticism of Superman Returns.
It does.
Whereas just like Superman Returns, he doesn't throw a punch, so we're going to have a whole hour of him throwing punches.
Have you seen Dragon Ball Z, motherfucker? Get ready.
But to me, from what I saw of the audience's perception, I don't think Man of Steel really changed people's perception of Superman the way that Dark Knight changed people's perception of Batman, and that's unfortunate. However, if you remove that pressure from this movie, what you have is just a decent Superman movie adaptation. If you remove that expectation from it, there's, I don't think there's anything super new or groundbreaking that Snyder does with the characters or the mythos in this one. Unlike what Nolan did with Batman or what Donner did with the character in 78, where like they made lasting changes that carried over into like later adaptations or later comics. But when you remove that pressure, what you've got is a Superman movie that sets out to just kind of retell its own take on the origin, have a few cool sci-fi ideas thrown in there, and it's kind of like a nice combination of Batman Begins and Superman the movie and a few Superman comics that I'll comment on where they were directly drawing from it. So I think I appreciate the movie more than I did in 2013, but I don't think I was ever an outright hater of it. I do feel that Snyder and Cavill's Superman, there's still sort of a disconnect that I feel with him in terms of, for me personally, I always felt like I wish there was a little bit more of, not necessarily him as an outcast, because that is portrayed there, but once he gets the suit on, I want to find other ways to care about him. I feel like some ways I didn't always really care about what happens to Superman. It was almost expected that I care about Superman because he's Superman, sort of thing, as opposed to what other comics or other adaptations had done. Like one of the big reasons why Smallville was such a big popular adaptation of Superman in the minds of our generation is the fact that they made you care about Clark Kent as a character. He didn't have the Superman suit at the time. He had powers, but what you saw was basically a guy who was going through normal adolescent shit, but had superpowers on top of that. And I've heard so many people being like, oh, like I didn't realize being Superman would be like that. And I was like, okay, that's awesome that Smallville did that for you.
That's good.
I kind of wish that Man of Steel did the same for others. And if it did for you among the audience members, then that's great. But for me personally, I was like, this is kind of, if you read a lot of comics with Superman's origin or read a lot of comics of him versus the Phantom Zone villains, this is kind of just par for the course, paint by numbers a little bit. I know Snyder fans will kill me for saying that, but it is kind of like there's not as many major alterations to it as opposed to if you look at the Dark Knight trilogy, where like Lucius Fox is now such a big part of Batman's journey, or Russell Crowe being part of Batman's journey, or the way they reimagined Joker. Like as much as I think Michael Shannon is good as Zod, he doesn't quite get into territory of completely surpassing the iconography of the Terrence Stamp Zod, as opposed to Heath Ledger kind of just mop the floor with Jack Nicholson's Joker in terms of pop culture. You know, that's regardless of your opinion of which Joker was better, but in terms of popular culture, Heath Ledger's suddenly rose to the top just from that reimagining. But again, as I said, that's if you put that pressure on it to be at that level, as opposed to just taking it where it is, where it's just like, it's a good Michael Shannon performance with Zod written pretty decently as a more morally ambiguous character than he was in the Terrence Stamp Superman the movie and Superman 2. So anyway, those are my kind of rambling thoughts on it.
Yeah, that's good. There's something about the people have said this before too. The jump from with Batman was essentially from 66 to 89 was obviously totally different, but it went darker obviously, but that works for Batman, and I think it's so difficult. They went from basically Reeve, because Superman Returns is basically Reeve over again.
Yeah.
From Reeve to Man of Steel, and it does go darker, like a lot darker in certain parts, obviously, and it's just not exactly the right turn. But I know we'll get there. But it's just you know, culturally we just couldn't accept it. You know, in a lot of ways. But anyway, we'll get into it. I'm sure. But yeah.
So let's start with the opening. Let's just go through the movie then, in terms of different comic book connections, in terms of different trivia. There's not a lot, I don't think, of that was criticized of Krypton for us to go over right at the beginning. However, for me, I've always kind of felt this way, and longtime listeners and those on our Patreon know this, but I'm not a fan of spending 20 to 30 minutes on Krypton at the beginning of every Superman story.
You want to get right into Smallville.
And here's part of it is like, I saw this in the opening episode of Superman the Animated Series. It's the first 20 minutes of Superman the movie. It's in the beginning of the George Reeves show. It's in the beginning of the Kirk Alyn serial. It's the first episode of the radio series. Like,
it's like
it's been done so many times.
3-part episode in the animated one, right? It's kind of long.
But part one is is Krypton. Like, it's all 20 to 25 to 30 minutes it's of the first episode.
They spend their time on Krypton in the animated show. I've gone back and watched it since Man of Steel, so I know about it now. And it's I was surprised how long they stayed there. Okay, so I differ from Ben here,
yes.
dear listener.
Yes.
I like Krypton. I agree. I mean, they don't need to say that forever. You're there for Superman. You're not there for Krypton. They tried to make that show on Sci-Fi Channel, which is, fine, whatever. But so Snyder's handling of this, to me, is one of the strongest in his deck of cards, kinda, because he says in some of his interviews that he based the look a lot on Heavy Metal magazine. And I can see that. I kind of appreciate that. I don't really need this introduction of the Codex. This is one of the major additions to Superman mythos can be found right here with Man of Steel. This, I think, did not really exist as far as I know.
Is it? No, it didn't. But is it a major contribution? Because I've never seen this carried over in anything after this. I just kind of feel like it's unique to Man of Steel, and then like everyone was like, "Okay, that's kind of cool for this movie." But
I want them to forget it. But it is. It became a. It's a Superman movie. It's an installment in his mythos. Essentially, we have to talk about it. So the Codex thing is added by Goyer, I think, and one of the things that they were trying to do is make this more sci-fi. Superman is an alien. He comes in a spaceship. All this kind of shit. People always think apple pie, Boy Scout Superman, but this is kind of what I liked about Man of Steel a little bit, was this sci-fi take on it. They talk about The Day the Earth Stood Still, famous, old black and white, sci-fi movie. That was an influence apparently on Goyer at least. And, but anyway, I think, maybe they stay in there too long, but I did like Krypton ultimately here. I don't know. I just enjoyed it. I think there's some good scenes with Crow and with Shannon. I mean, I will find him and all that. It's I don't know. I was a fan. It just exists just to blow up. I get it.
So that's my thing. So my take on it, and this applies to all the other Superman adaptations, not just Man of Steel. For those wondering, like, what do you like? If there's any reason why I might critique this more than the previous ones, is because the previous ones weren't like the Kirk Allen's Serial. I can't blame it for starting with Krypton because it was the first exposure to this character and to what Krypton was at the time. But when we get to 2013 and we've seen this over and over again, I'm just like, everybody complains about how the Wayne murders is done over and over again, but how often do you see that at the beginning of a Batman movie? Pretty much Batman Begins and Batman vs. Superman Dawn of Justice. Every other time, it's just a little flashback every now and then. But
that is true.
Imagine if it spent 20 minutes every Batman movie with Thomas Wayne and Martha and Alfred, and then they get shot 20 minutes in. Like, I'm sure that would be more, But the thing is, at least at that point, you would get young Bruce and his relationship with his parents. My problem with spending so much time on Krypton versus Bruce with his parents is that Clark isn't really a character. He's just a prop at this point. He's a baby. He's not.
They show
there's
the
nobody. You just see his exactly. Like
this is something Kevin Smith brought up, but they show the PP in both. This is a Donna connection. First Donna connection is this kid's PP. So yeah.
Yes. But yeah, I mean, Jeff Johns' Secret Origin, J. Michael Straczynski's Earth One, Smallville, like none of these started on Krypton. I like Superman stories that start with Clark growing up in Smallville because that's starting with the main character. Yeah, this is in my opinion. And also from a story perspective, especially in this one, Jor-El ends up telling him everything that happens in the first 20 minutes. Late, when they meet up, he talks about Zod. He talks about the fact that Krypton blew up and all those things. Like,
don't you want to see Russell Crowe swim through that bullshit to grab the codex?
I would actually be curious.
Jumping on goddamn future animals and shit.
I just feel like we could have started at a different point than what Richard Donner did, and I think it would have been more interesting seeing all that stuff. Have the same footage, but if somebody were to recut this and put it later when Jor-El's telling it to Clark,
it's the positioning. The positioning you don't like.
Part of it
in the beginning,
part of it's the positioning.
You don't like. Yeah.
Part of it's the positioning, because then I'm just like, yeah, but Jor-El tells him all this stuff later, and Clark has to learn about it because he's our main character. But what if you just put all that later on? Then we learn it along with Clark. Which means in the beginning, Clark's origins is a mystery to him and to us if we haven't seen a Superman movie before. And he learns about his Kryptonian heritage while we, the audience, learn about it, as opposed to us being ahead of him the whole fucking time like we were in all the other adaptations that I talked about.
I see.
So
yeah, that's good too.
It would have been, so that's to me, that would have been a better start. But, again, this is not something that was often criticized. This was just my personal thing. And it has it's just more to do with the standard structure of the Superman origin than this movie-specific execution of it. So
right.
One thing that is unique to this movie, though, is that Kal-El is the first natural birth in centuries on Krypton.
That's also new, right? Yes, that's a new addition.
Jor-El and Lara are the first Kryptonians in generations to actually fuck. So, congratulations to them.
I don't know why all that was added. I mean, maybe you dug up something about Goyer and their intentions, but I think
the biggest thing to me thematically that came across was the idea that Krypton is structured as a society where you are engineered to serve a certain purpose. So General Zod, he's like, I have one purpose only. He's mainly to be a general.
And
Jor-El's purpose is to be a scientist.
I think that the highly structured Kryptonian society's sort of been in the
kind
comics,
of,
but not the genetic shit.
Not to the genetic level. So what was important was the idea that thematically to be like, he's the first natural birth, which means he's free to do whatever he wants. Superman in this movie is the embodiment of freedom of choice, which I think is pretty cool because of the fact that it means that he, Snyder kind of did the anti-chosen one destiny thing when it came to Clark in this version. It was because it could have easily been like, there's a prophecy about like the son who's the last son of Krypton, and instead he went the opposite way to be like, no, is the only natural birth on this planet, he can do whatever he wants, and it's up to him to choose to fight for humanity still. And it's not something that's in his genetics. It's just something that he chooses to do based off of his upbringing from his Earth parents. And I think that's an awesome way to sort of convey the power of Clark's choice to be Superman on it.
I like that.
It's kind of complex for them to set that up because there's a lot of sci-fi elements for them to pull it off. But
I don't feel like they don't revisit it ever though. But I guess it's sort of under the surface. For the whole thing.
Yeah, I mean, Jor-El does talk about, like, he's the first one with the freedom of choice, and all that. And, he talks about what if a child dreamed of being something more than what he was intended. And that sort of crosses over into our society where it's like, well, there's society's expectations of you, but there's also like your own dreams and passions and stuff. So I think that was a way to make it relatable. Could they have made it even more relatable or stronger? I agree with you on that. They probably could have, but I think there's enough of it in the movie that I appreciate that aspect of it.
Yeah, that was good.
This element also may have been inspired by the John Byrne post-crisis revamp of Superman, also called Man of Steel, where he sort of introduced a more sterile Krypton. And in the comic, Jor-El removes Kal-El from these like gestation chambers in order to put him into the rocket.
So that's cool.
That's kind of what the movie's drawing off of in that scene where he removes the codex from this area full of just fetuses. So I guess in John Byrne's version of Krypton, there was this whole area full of fetuses that he had to rescue Kal-El from just to put him into the rocket. So that's kind of cool. So as we noted, Russell Crowe plays Jor-El. He's the Jor-El who fucks, literally.
Did Marv Wolfman write him?
Laura is played by actress, I might butcher the pronunciation, Ayelet Zurer. She apparently was not the original choice, though. Originally cast was an actress named Julia Ormond, who had to drop out for reasons unknown. But then one of the other actresses who was offered was Connie Nielsen, who plays Hippolyta in Wonder Woman. So she almost could have been the mother of Superman instead of Wonder Woman. This was out of a leaked production sheet that had her name on it, as well as Harry Lennox, who plays General Swanwick, and that was leaked out before Lennox's casting was even announced. So it seems like that's probably legitimate. This would have been a reunion for Gladiator fans since Connie Nielsen was co-starring with Russell Crowe in that movie. So we had both Superman's dad and Wonder Woman's mom in the same movie with the Joker himself, Joaquin Phoenix. So there's a lot of people in that. And Djimon Hounsou, who's in like Aquaman, Shazam, and what else was he in? He was in a Marvel thing. Yeah, he was in Guardians of the Galaxy. He's in a whole bunch of shit.
Amistad? Let us not forget.
Yes. Very important comic book movie, Amistad.
Yeah, he's in a lot of comic book shit, though. He loves it.
Yeah. No, he's awesome. Laura does have a bigger and better role here than she does in Superman the movie. However, it's still somewhat Jor-El centric in having, we still have the Jor-El AI like we did with Marlon Brando.
She presses the button though, right? She's the one that actually does the launch.
I think so.
Sequence. I think she has more agency than usual.
She's a little more. Yeah. She's still a little more. It's still more than what poor Susanna York wanted in Superman the movie, where she was just like, "What do I get to say?" And Mankiewicz is just like, "Look, if we're paying you millions of dollars, you get to say what you want." With Marlon Brando. So. Yeah. Unfortunately, that was kind of due to who the star was among the couple playing him. So one interesting tidbit is that Zack Snyder wanted this element of animals on Krypton taking notice when Clark was born. There's an element he wanted where
so weird.
The House of El is connected to nature on the planet they're on, which is why Jor-El has that whole connection with the dragon. That's kind of like Avatar, and Clark is sort of connected to the earth when he's in the water and you see the whales around him. There's this whole thing that Snyder talks about. So it feels to me a little Lion King-ish, a little circle of life and it moves us all. So
but why have the animal? I don't know, man. I don't know. Not generally Superman's thing.
It's an interesting idea. I don't know if it's really necessary, but it is fun to, look at the Vero comments that Snyder makes as well as the commentary and see what his intentions are.
Right.
As covered in Andrew and Wolfie's interview with Christine Scheer, they did try to create a Kryptonian language for the actors to speak
which would have had subtitles in the opening, and apparently Russell Crowe did do a scene where he spoke Kryptonian.
We broke
However-
this story, I think. I don't think anybody had talked about this at all. I mean,
Right.
we interviewed her
Way back, yeah.
way back, but years after Man of Steel. So by the time we broke it, it wasn't that big of a deal because it was a movie that was years old,
Yeah.
you know, at that point anyway. So,
And I don't think Snyder had confirmed it yet, because Snyder does confirm this in the commentary that he did in 2020, but that's like after the interview sort of thing. So they did opt for English, obviously, despite creating the language, because Snyder said, according to his commentary, that he felt like it wouldn't make it immersive enough into the Kryptonian world if you had to be reading subtitles, as opposed to if you just understood what they were saying in the first place. So
right. Yeah, she said she based Kryptonian on, I forget the tribe's name, but it's, I think, forgive me if I use the wrong terminology, but Native American Canadian tribes? Native Canadian tribes? She's
That is
Canadian.
interesting.
So, and I believe it is a verb-first language. There's my first miserable detail. Verb first. So like in English, it's SVO. I am going to the movies. The verb's in the middle. But some languages like Gaelic and Kryptonian are going I to the movies. And I think Hawaiian also. It's VSO, verb, subject, object. Klingon is OVS, completely opposite of English. And some Amazonian languages actually are like that, but it is the least naturally occurring. So there's my first one, Ben.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, and you guys can check out the interview with Dr. Christine Schreier. It is the first. If you guys are on our YouTube, you can check out. It's the first deep dive that we have on our Superman playlist, Secrets of Krypton.
That's true.
The Superman deep dive. So you guys can check that out there for the full breakdown of the Kryptonian language that didn't make in. But this would have happened, I guess, in the scene where Jor-El is warning the Kryptonian Council about the imminent destruction of Krypton, as we've seen in other versions of this. Snyder said that the Kryptonian Council, the designs of it were sort of based off of Art Nouveau, as well as the original plan of the apes, kind of in terms of the look. So that's interesting. Also, Jor-El notably has the S-Shield as a Kryptonian crest, which is another carryover from the Donner films, as we talked about in the Superman the Movie deep dive. That was an idea from screenwriter Tom Mankiewicz. So we've seen Jor-El basically wear the S-Shield ever since Marlon Brando, and a lot of the different TV Jor-Els have done the same.
I think that's just since Donner, that's probably just
that's the new
that's
standard.
just part of it. Yeah, part of it now.
Yeah. We do, however, get a bit of a twist on this usual council scene when Zod comes in and kills one of the council members. So General Zod trying to take over the Kryptonian Council is actually pretty true to the comics, down to his very first comic book appearance in Action Comics 283 in a story called The Phantom Superboy, where Superboy, who's the young Clark, young Superman, sort of sees a projector that shows Kryptonian history, and one of those things is Zod trying to take over Krypton. So that's been there from the beginning.
Okay.
And this is also mentioned in Superman the Movie, and you get to see it in the theatrical cut of Superman 2. Though usually his insurrection is usually not right before Krypton is exploding that very day, but
the timing.
oh well,
the timing.
But here's another interesting thing: the Richard Donner influence isn't just with seeing the baby's pee-pee. It's not just with seeing the S-Shield, but it's also with a little bit of what happened to Zod here, outside of just sending him to the Phantom Zone. Richard Donner co-wrote comics with Jeff Johns in the 2000s or so, and one of those was Action Comics Annual Number 10, art by Rags Morales and inks by Mark Farmer, where Zod and company actually side with Jor-El on the fact that the planet is about to explode. However, they have different ideas on how to, what to do about it, as they do in the movie. And like in the movie, Zod kills the Kryptonian Council members. There's also a scene in that comic where Zod storms into Jor-El and Lara's chambers to place them under arrest for quote-unquote heresy, which is what Shannon says later on. So
Shannon is great in this movie, man.
He's great.
He's an underrated gem, I think.
I think Michael Shannon is also the first American actor to play Zod, because we got
Could
Terrence
be.
Stamp, who's British, and then let's see, later on TV. I mean, they did have Zod take over Lex Luthor's body in Smallville, but that doesn't really count. When they actually did introduce Zod, he was played by a British actor named Caleb Blue in Smallville. And then I think there's like maybe a Canadian actor who played Zod in Supergirl for a bit, but that was just that was after Man of Steel. So that makes Shannon the first non-Brit to play Zod. And I think they, if you want to diverge from the Terrence Stamp model, I think Shannon's a great choice for that. He's great in this movie.
Casting is pretty much great in this movie, I think. But
yeah, I agree.
I think so. I want to give a shout out to a little known movie real quick. The first time I ever saw Michael Shannon was in a very small movie called Shotgun Stories, in which he is a brother of like 3 brothers, and his dad leaves them and has a family with another woman and raises them well. Like it's basically two sets of 3 brothers fighting at each other, and it goes out of control because the dad dies, and Michael Shannon, this is not a big spoiler, spits on his fucking coffin at the funeral. And it's a family rivalry movie. It's set in Arkansas. I first found out about it from Ebert's top, when he was alive, Ebert's top movies of that year. Shotgun Stories, indie movie, basically one of Shannon's first movies. It's great.
Very nice. Very nice. When Shannon was first announced to be the villain for Man of Steel, they didn't say who he was playing. So I personally thought, oh my God, this guy's going to be an amazing Lex Luthor.
Oh, man.
Would have been better than who we got. But that's for another episode.
That's another
anyway.
one. We'll save that one.
Yes.
We'll table that.
Accompanying Zod are a lot of Phantom Zone villains who are pretty much all from the comics. So I'm going to actually save that for our Patreon for us to do a deep dive on who's who. But it is worth
Faora
noting.
and shit.
Yeah, Faora is the one I'll talk about here. Faora is played by actress, again, I'll butcher the name, I think, Antje
Trau or something.
Trau,
Forgive us.
yeah.
I believe she's German. I could be wrong about that too, but
yeah,
so it's a little bit not a name that we come across all too often.
Right. Yes. Our apologies if we butchered that, or if I butchered that. But she is the actual original female Phantom Zone Kryptonian that Ursa from Superman 2 is based on. Ursa was not part of the comics of Superman 2. Ursa is pretty much based off of Faora. So Snyder went old school on this version of the character. However, this actress was not the original actress up for this role. The original actress who was offered this was Gal Gadot.
Whoa, really?
Gal Gadot
I think I have
was
heard this.
Faora, yeah.
I think I have heard this, yes.
However,
she kind of lucked out on that one.
She was pregnant. So
oh, wow.
she's like, I can't do it. It's such a shame. And then, later on for the next movie, Snyder's like, hey, you want to be Wonder Woman? So, like, obviously she lucked out with the roles here because, Faora isn't just this movie, but Wonder Woman is her own franchise. So that's pretty awesome. Other tidbits behind the scenes, the Kryptonian armor that you see is all CGI in the entire movie, which is interesting because it doesn't look that way.
It looks
so
incredible.
It's fantastic. It's fantastic. But that's how the actors are able to move, because if they had the real armor, they wouldn't be able to move that way.
Right.
So that's cool. Let's see. Deep cuts here. The Kryptonian council member who is flat out murdered by Zod is a woman named Rosar. Now, as we mentioned in the Radio Superman episode, the head of the Kryptonian Council in a lot of the old adaptations was named Roseanne. Not Roseanne Barr, but Roseanne.
She takes Space Ambien and fucking ruin her career.
That's why Zod kills her.
Yeah.
ROZAN. I know it was a he. Roseanne.
Okay.
And Roseanne was a he in the original radio serial, as well as the 1948 Kirk Allen serial, and in the pilot of the George Reeves show. But it's kind of cool that this character who barely is in the movie for a couple seconds kind of is named after that, or seems to be named after that. I don't think it was a coincidence. I'm pretty sure that Snyder and company know their shit.
Right.
One of the Kryptonians Jor-El fights in the hallway when Zod has Jor-El taken away is a character named Tor-On, who will go over in the Patreon, but he is played by Richard Satrone, who is the stuntman for Batfleck.
Good old Satrone. Yep.
So again, I'll go more into other Phantom Zone criminals in the Patreon. We would be here for a good 20 minutes if I went to everybody at this point, because that's how deep we've cut. Yeah. Like Donner made up Non and Ursa in Superman 2, but here they like went through like all the past Phantom Zone villains and pretty much put them all in here.
That's cool.
So that's pretty cool. The robot that Jor-El confides in is named Kelex.
Yes, that's a callback, right? That's based on something.
That's based off of John Byrne's Man of Steel. In the opening, Jor-El talks to two robots, Kelex and Keylor. Keylor is voiced by Rondell Reynoldson, but Kelex is voiced by Carla Gugino, who is a more famous actress, but she was...
Wow.
Yeah, she was Silk Spectre, the original Silk Spectre in Watchmen, but also, according, Snyder, this hit the news, and this is a quick tangent, but this hit the news. Everyone was like, Carla Gugino was Snyder's original idea for Catwoman. He was going to put her in. I'm like, well, that's not really what he said in the podcast that he said that in. It was the podcast host telling him, hey, wouldn't Carla Gugino be a great Catwoman? And he was like, actually, she would be great, and here's what I would do if we ever did that. It wasn't an idea.
So he's thought about it, but it didn't get that far.
It wasn't. It didn't seem like it was a case where it was originally written into Batman vs Superman: Dawn of Justice, or in Justice League, or in Ben Affleck's Batman movie. It was just kind of like him spitballing on a podcast. So again, correct me if I'm wrong, if I misheard where that was, but I did listen to the actual source of that that rumor, and I think it's been completely overblown. Yeah. So
the nerds overblew something on the internet.
Yes.
Is that what you're telling me right now?
Who knew? Yes.
Wow. All right.
Let's see. Jor-El calls on the dragon Haraka, who's also an invention from the movie. However, it may have been inspired by a page in Superman Birthright that shows a Kryptonian in the city riding on what looks like a winged flying creature. So that's probably where that came from.
It's the whole thing, like they're super advanced, and it could be the case. This is me thinking too much about it, but they have genetically engineered all their animals, and that's like their pet dragon. Like, I don't know. I just feel like maybe that's in there because they're obviously into genetics.
Right.
So I don't know, and not just a human Kryptonian thing. It's probably all life on Krypton. So
they do succeed in doing a new type of Krypton that isn't just an ice planet like in the Donner version.
That's one of the reasons why I appreciate it. It does feel like a fairly fleshed out world. Even though it's not like a whole movie based there. So I appreciated that quite a bit.
Let's see. When Jor-El arrives home to the House of El Citadel, you can see in the background that the moon of Krypton is broken or somewhat shattered. Zack Snyder brought up that this was meant to imply Doomsday. He said that Doomsday broke Krypton's moon long ago, and that this was the original.
I didn't know about this.
This is the original Doomsday because Zod is just a form of Doomsday when Lex fucks around with his genetics in Batman vs Superman. But Lex is warned about an aberration from beforehand that was created during Batman vs Superman. So there is an original Doomsday who broke Krypton's moon in this, and that moon was supposed to symbolize that Doomsday is out and about. And I looked this up in the comics. I was just like, I knew that Doomsday does come from ancient Kryptonians. Yeah. But I was like, did Doomsday break the moon in the comics? And the answer is no, actually. The moon Wegthor is destroyed by Jax-Ur, another Kryptonian criminal who is also in this movie, as he's the scientist who's like tries to operate on Superman when they capture him in the
Krypton's moon is named Wegthor.
Yes,
that's incredible. That's
deep cuts.
We get deep here on this podcast.
Yes. But yeah, I'm like, okay, in your continuity, obviously Doomsday breaks the moon, but I don't know how we were supposed to think that was supposed to be Doomsday, because
he's just putting in little eggs, Easter eggs.
I know, but I would have thought like, well, you've got Jax-Ur as part of the criminals. Maybe he fucked up at one point. That's what happens in the comics. But anyway, that's not necessarily criticism. I'm just saying, like, I don't know how we would have known that there was Doomsday just from that broken moon. If anything, I would have just thought Jax-Ur, but whatever. Let's see. Another thing, and this came up in the Christine Schreier interview.
Schreier, I believe.
Schreier?
Schreier. Yeah.
Schreier. Okay. Sorry,
Schreier.
But the Joseph Campbell quote that is on Superman's S in Batman vs. Superman is also hidden in Kryptonian in the Citadel in Jor-El's place. And it's a quote from Joseph Campbell, who is
For those who don't know, he was basically the guy who wrote The Hero of 1,000 Faces, and it's a lot of it on story structure and heroism, and it's stuff that influenced a lot of stories today, Star Wars specifically. It was about mythology.
Blew my mind when I learned about it in film school.
Yeah.
I mean, as far as so, real quick example of this, you can compare Lord of the Rings and Star Wars. They follow it, I mean, more or less to a T. Like, one of the first things that the hero must do is leave home. Frodo leaves the Shire, and Luke leaves Tatooine. So there's like these steps. There's like certain steps. It's like in myths that Joseph Campbell has kind of figured out of like what makes the best story, and it's all there. I mean, Star Wars pretty much follows it to a T, the original.
Right.
So.
Yeah, it does. It does. So Snyder put quotes from Campbell into the Citadel as well as on Superman's S-Shield in Batman vs. Superman. And the quote is, "Where we thought to stand alone, we will be with all the world," I believe.
Wow.
So
that's cool. I love that.
That's cool because it ties in thematically with Superman feeling like he stands alone, but he actually is inspiring all of Earth when he gets there. So that's pretty cool. And then we do have Zod killing Jor-El, which I believe is the only time in comic book history that Jor-El is flat out murdered in comic book history.
Just dies with the planet, right? He
does die with the planet. However, there is a version where this kind of happened in Smallville, where this is complicated because we get to season 9 of Smallville, but essentially a clone of Jor-El shows up, and the clone of Zod has a bunch of his other Phantom Zone villains, and one of the Phantom Zone villains kills Jor-El. But that's a clone of Jor-El. It's not the original Jor-El. So it's kind of close where one of Zod's guys kills him. But anyway, I did feel like maybe this was not super necessary to have Zod kill Jor-El when Jor-El was just going to die anyway. It just seemed like it made things darker, and now Lara is all alone when the planet explodes.
Right.
But it is what it is. Those are not criticized. However, before we get to the break, there is one thing that will open up our finally our scores, which is that a lot of people, this is less movie critics and more people online, were criticizing the designs here when Zod is sent to the Phantom Zone.
I know what you're about to say.
He was,
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Everybody, they are encased in a cocoon that looks very phallic.
Yeah.
And a lot of people, I know somebody who laughed at the theater when he saw it. I know people who called it the dildo ships to get to the Phantom Zone. But this is a very phallic choice. And if you look at all the other designs in there, the Citadel for the House of El is shaped in a very phallic shape. The rocket that Kal-El is put in is very phallic with very round endings at the end. So
bulbous.
Yes, very bulbous endings. Snyder said that this was deliberate. He wanted to have fertility symbols all around Krypton because it is a race that abandoned genetic birthing. So I guess he wanted to have some representation of fertility in some way in this type of world. Even though they abandoned genetic, I don't know.
They're not having. They're hard up. They
Yes.
They got pent up.
They're hard up.
Yeah, they're pent up there, man. They don't. They need to get it out somehow. I guess.
Yes.
My the way I address this is like it looks like a dick. Who cares? Who cares? It's not a big deal. Rockets always look like dicks anyway. Maybe this looks more like a dick than usual, but
a little like pretty much more. Yeah.
I mean, look, this happens. Like I applaud Snyder on this decision. It's just, it's just not a big deal to me. I mean, the H.R. Giger's aliens also based on phallic symbols, and I could be wrong about this, but I think that the Predator was based on the vagina.
Oh, I see what you mean.
You know what I mean?
The mouth,
so,
yeah.
Yeah, the mouth. So, it's... this kind of thing just pops up. Yeah, get your giggles in, but Snyder made some dick spaceships. Who cares?
Yes,
it's not a big deal.
It is not a huge deal. It is somewhat distracting, but it's not.
Rockets fuck the sky. We send those space dicks out to other planets to populate them. We're fucking
Yes.
we're fucking the solar system.
You're right.
You know,
I don't think
know.
that's what he meant when he put that
No,
in.
it's not, but it is kind of funny how it works out like that.
It is funny, yeah.
I just think I don't know. I know, okay, you said it was distracting. It's just, I don't know. It doesn't bother me that much.
It is distracting, but I'm not saying that it's necessarily. It's to me, it's like the rubber nipples in the Schumacher film. We're just like, no, it's not necessary. Yes, they can be distracting. Do I think that makes it a bad moment of the movie when I see them? No, you know, like it's,
Nipples are on the main character though, which like, okay, whatever. But this is really a throwaway.
Yeah, but it's also
a shot of them go
it's
up
just
and
a
like that's it.
design. Yeah, but in the end, it's just a design. Like,
Yeah.
in terms of the function of it is simply to take them to the Phantom Zone, and then the function for Batman's suit is to protect them. So it's like, okay, well, whatever. The best
Protect
opinion
those nipples.
the best opinion I heard about the nipples was that, well, maybe it didn't make sense with Val Kilmer, but George Clooney was going up against Mr. Freeze, and it was pretty fucking cold. So,
Straight through the suit. Straight through the suit.
but anyway, in terms of Snyder versus critics, it looks like we're siding with Snyder on this one.
So far.
So that's Snyder 1, critics 0, and I think that takes us to the break. So when we get back, we will now talk about the main character.
Oh yeah.
Superman's in this.
Just as Snyder spent 30 minutes on Krypton, so did we.
Yes, catch you after the break.
Need some adventure in your life? What Mad Universe is a podcast about the history of sci-fi, fantasy, and horror, where we delve the depths of pop culture history.
Everything's the same politically, but we have ray guns.
The actual motive isn't to explore something that's, quote,
Yeah.
scientifically possible or...
But neither is Star Wars, and I know there's arguments about that, but I would definitely consider Star Wars science fiction.
You haven't
It's-
read Dune!
No, I haven't.
You can never be the Kwisatz Haderach. What Mad Universe on the Greenlit Podcast Network.
My name is Scott Summers, and I'm just wondering, Vision, how do you and Wanda have sex?
Well, Mr. Summers, it's a very complicated process here.
Don't you just take out your mechanical pee-pee and then make sweet, sweet, sensual love to Wanda?
You would think it would be like that, but I'm afraid there's a bit more to it.
Like, with your powers?
That is actually part of it. That's part of the foreplay, my friend.
Wow. I mean,
You should try it sometime.
I know what you're talking about, but back to how you have sex, because that's what I talk about. So,
Well, I can say Wanda and I never have to do any shopping at Adam and Eve because we can just conjure it out of thin air.
wow, what kind of toys do you make?
Well, for her, it's the usual stuff, you know, the dildos and the vibrator. But for me, I require some more, you know, heavy-duty stuff. I need some WD-40, some new lug nuts, every now and then a literal screw.
Okay, so I know I'm getting extremely personal here.
For some reason, I don't mind.
We did already see this in Deadpool, the first movie, so I'm just gonna go there. You like to turn the tables, as it were. Let's put it that way.
I guess so. You see, if you remove any part of me can be an orifice.
Wow. Okay. The whole mansion wants to know. I'm just a messenger, okay? I mean, I think probably one of the super hearing fucks is listening right now. So, you know, it's not my fault if this leaves this room, okay? So don't blame me.
Oh, I'm sure Professor Charles Xavier is listening to this very conversation.
Yeah, the bald fuck. Anyway, oh, you're bald too. Sorry, man.
It's okay, in my human form, I'm not.
Oh, true. Okay, loved you in A Knight's Tale. Anyway, so, okay, so you'd like to turn things around a bit. I like that. It's progressive. You know, we're all about being progressive here at the School for Gifted Youngsters.
Are you asking me these, Mr. Summers, because you and Miss Jean Grey are finding things going stale?
You know, you do have quite the brain chip or whatever. That is true. We've ordered a motherfucking shitload from adamandeve.com, and, you know, little Cyclops is just not feeling the same way as he used to.
I'm sure it doesn't help that she's died and come back to life about 600 times.
Well, you know, our storylines are convoluted, but yes. So, actually, might try that out. I'll see what kind of lug nuts I can put up there.
Best of luck with that. Though I may advise you do not have the same healing powers as Mr. Logan.
That's true.
Just an FYI.
That's true. I'll start small and work myself up from there. This has been kind of a fruitful and not weird and overly toxic conversation, I think, Vision. We truly are progressive here at the mansion.
That's very good to hear. Now I know exactly how normal human males talk.
Yes, this is exactly...
And what they talk about.
You're right about that, Vision. This is exactly how we all talk.
Meanwhile, at the boss's office the next day, Vision approaches his boss. Mr. Hart, can I tell you about how I was lug-nutted the other night by my wife?
Jeez, Vision. I was talking about the stupid-ass commies and you bring up this bullshit.
But I thought that's how normal humans talk.
Well, I'm interested in it too, but...
All right, then, I'll close the door.
But that's not how people talk around here, okay? But yes, I'm also interested.
Understood. Let me just close the door here, and I'll tell you exactly what you'll need to know.
All right, everybody, if you like that sketch right there, we have that, plus news, plus we're bringing back some opinion pieces and review-type stuff and all kinds of stuff in our $5 tier on Patreon. So just go to patreon.com/superherostuffpod, and if you become part of the $5 tier, you can see these new bonus episodes. Basically, consider it Superhouse DLC.
And you're listening to
Superhero Stuff
You Should Know.
Woohoo!
And welcome back, and we are out of Krypton and into, well, we're not quite in Smallville, but we are back on Earth now
Yes.
in Man of Steel, and we get our introduction to Clark Kent. So before the break, we were at Snyder 1, Critics at 0. Let's see how we do with a couple of the other things that we have coming up.
This
But-
took me out of it when I saw the movie because I was like, oh, we're not doing any
The
kids
fishing trip.
scenes.
Yeah,
I mean, they go back to it, but I
Yeah.
thought we were going to go more chronological. I remember being in the theater and being like, oh, okay, so we're going straight there. By the way, Ralph Garman hated this. He called
Really?
him. He called him. Ralph Garman is Kevin Smith's co-host on Hollywood Babylon,
Yeah.
another a famous nerd podcast, and he was like, he's Hobo Superman, and I was just like, dude, you must not be familiar with. What's it? Man of Steel? Birthright. Birthright does this.
Well, the Man of Steel, Burns' Man of Steel also brings this up as well, where
Right, yeah,
Martha
yeah,
opens
there
the
you go.
scrapbook and there's full of like articles on this stuff. We just never saw it, but that doesn't mean that he didn't do it.
Yeah, right.
So-
Come on. I mean, I like a traveling vagabond Superman. That's kind of what I would do.
yeah. Where he's trying to at least sort of figure out where his purpose in the world is. I can kind of understand it. Maybe one of the things that threw him off was that it didn't seem like he had much of a purpose yet in that, but it's not quite like Batman Begins where he was traveling the world to specifically get training in the criminal mind. It was kind of like he's just kind of wandering for a bit. I don't know if I hated it. It is part of the comics, but I do. Part of me is I agree with you, Andrew, in terms of like it did kind of throw me off where it was like, oh, like where's the Smallville? Like how come?
Yeah.
We don't. And
Oh,
part
we're
of this,
already there.
which I know seems hypocritical because it's like, well, I just criticized Krypton being for 20 minutes just like any other adaptation. Why would I want it to follow the same structure? But I think like the heart of the character is very much in him growing up in Smallville. The Kents play a huge role, as we saw in the movie. We do get to those scenes though. It's just not quite in the order that we thought.
Right.
But I mean, again, if somebody were to recut this and we started with the fishing trip and the oil rig sequence, you get a crackerjack action sequence in the beginning, and then some
Crackerjack,
flashbacks.
baby.
So, but anyway, on this fishing trip, we finally meet.
You get
Clark
Cavill's
Kent.
chest.
We get Cavill's luscious
It's just
chest hair.
start out with that shot.
Yeah. Cavill was not the only actor to be up for Superman. Do you know who the other candidate was?
Oh man, I should know this. No idea.
Joe Manganiello.
Oh man, I would have liked for Manganiello to get that. He would have been
That would have
good
been
too.
awesome, yeah.
Yeah.
Who went on to become Deathstroke. So we have already, I guess Snyder takes care of his people well, because this is our third instance of casting.
If you're in
where
a
they
Snyder
ended up getting
staple, you're taken care of.
Yeah, Connie Nielsen couldn't be Superman's mom, but became Wonder Woman's mom. Gal Gadot couldn't be Faora, but became Wonder Woman.
Yeah.
Joe Manganiello couldn't be Superman, but he ended up as Deathstroke. So I'm like, that's pretty cool.
Affleck versus Manganiello, Deathstroke, HBO Max movie. Let's make it. Come on.
We will cover
what could have been, as well as all the instances in the comics where Batman fights Deathstroke that they could have drawn off of. So that's an upcoming deep dive for you Batfleck fans who want the Batman. I definitely want to see something like that happen if if I called him Batfleck, if Ben Affleck is down for it.
I'm sure he would be, especially now that he sees that he actually did get a lot of love.
Yeah,
you know
hopefully.
What I mean? It wasn't like Daredevil was like, maybe stay away. Like people, like years later, people are like, we liked you, Batfleck.
Right.
You know what I mean?
I think a lot of it was the love for Zack in bringing him to this role. So who knows? But anyway, Joe Manganiello had a 90-minute meeting with Zack and Debbie Snyder. However, True Blood did not let him go.
These fucking contracts.
They even called the costume department at True Blood to get his measurements so that they could fit him in the suit. But
damn, man, he would have been good.
Didn't work out. It would have definitely have been a different time. Not like, Cavill is obviously, looks like Superman and everything. He looks great in the suit, but I think there is something different about seeing Manganiello where it's just like, oh, this guy it's a different look from Cavill's still kind of in the Chris Reeve mold, I would say. And Manganiello is kind of his own.
Manganiello is, judging from his last name, Italian American. It's a little bit, it's a slightly different, white person look than Cavill. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Let's see. There is a lot of authenticity to the sequence. The crab fishing boat he's on is named the Debbie Sue, and it's an actual crab fishing boat. And I think he is with real fishermen. On that, they're probably the ones of the lines are probably actors, but other people around are probably real fishermen. And when he goes to rescue the guys in the oil rig, those are real Coast Guard pilots.
Sweet.
And it's an actual helicopter takeoff. That wasn't all CGI or anything like that. Obviously, him holding up the building was not really Cavill and holding up a building.
That's
there was
Superman.
Effects involved. But,
Superman really holding it up.
Let's see. Zack really wanted this image of shirtless, bearded Clark just in flames and everything. That image is actually in Adventures of Superman number 524 from 1995. In the arc, The Death of, not Superman, but The Death of Clark Kent was the name of the arc. And Clark at one point goes into hiding as a lumberjack until a fire sort of forces him to take action. And then there's an image of him with a beard and shirtless in the middle of a fire and stuff. So
take that, Garmin.
Yeah.
Garmin hated the beard and everything. It's just like, dude, I think he knows a lot about Batman, especially Batman 66. He's an expert with that. When it comes to Superman, he hated that. It seems like he had only really seen the Reeves and Reeves stuff. So
probably.
I don't know, but this was mostly pretty good scene ultimately.
I mean, again, it's Superman saving people, and I was going to save this for another thing, but Superman does save people in this movie. You can't say that this guy doesn't care about saving people. He's saving people left and right. Once you watch the movie,
semi-truck drivers that are jerks.
Well, we'll get into that.
Other than that,
let's see. Superman. Well, he's not Superman yet, but Clark ends up in the water and has a flashback while he's in the water, surrounded by whales. And when we see him again, he resurfaces, and a lot of people speculate that maybe Jason Momoa's Aquaman rescued him or took him to safety somewhere or whatever.
This is possible, but I mean, that's just such fan speculation shit, it's just like...
Snyder does comment on this.
Okay.
He said, quote, "Did Aquaman save Superman? I don't know." And he's sort of just in a sort of teasing way to the audience. So I don't know if he's just playing with the fans or... I feel like if there was an opportunity to reveal that, it's in the Snyder cut,
Yeah.
It's like, hey, I know who you are.
Right.
You were in the middle of the ocean after the oil rig went. If you want to do that, but I don't think it's necessary at all.
He whispered, "My man," to him while I was in the ocean.
He's like, "Arthur?"
Huh? How do you know my name?
Yes. We do have flashbacks while he's in the ocean to him being an outcast at school, specifically his powers acting up, and he experiences his X-ray vision and sort of.
Is this when he's reading Plato's The Republic?
That's actually later.
Oh yeah, it's a later.
When he's
scene,
just he's just a little kid and he's seeing X-ray vision, and his mom has to show up. So Jeff Johns' Secret Origin by Jeff Johns and drawn by Gary Frank has a similar scene of him seeing his X-ray vision and everything. And we cut back to present day. Clark is now half naked and resurfaces
And here's where we get to something that was criticized by Superman fans, is that he finds himself among basically laundry that's been hung up, and he sort of takes the clothes for himself, and he sort of steals the clothes. So, practically wise, he can't just walk around shirtless in this town. However, this is Superman stealing clothes off of people. So, where do you fall in terms of how that could have been handled?
He's still kind of in vagabond mode, so it's not great. Maybe they should have had a shot, like a one quick shot of him leaving money on their
I was
steps.
thinking about that. Yeah,
It's very easily remedied, but
or if he doesn't have money because he just got soaked, maybe like some food, like a basket of food or something. Like I picture
fish, all the fish he just talked to.
Yes.
Oh no, it was around.
Momoa was like, "Not my man."
God damn it! That's my friends.
I was picturing a scene where like they find the clothes are gone and they turn around, but then you see like a basket of like fruit that wasn't there before at the doorstep, and then you hear the Zimmer done.
Yeah, I know I said I wouldn't say this phrase, but that would have been better. Yeah, yeah. It's a minor gripe.
It's very minor,
Superman's
but
morals, but whatever.
Yeah, it's one out of many criticisms I think of the movie in terms of where Clark's morals are and how Superman should or should not act, which is par for the course when it comes to an adaptation of such a popular superhero. But I think
Go ahead.
It's kind of a risk. I'm saying it's kind of a risk when you have all-American Boy Scout Superman basically stealing clothes and then not really going into any consequence that comes after, or any lesson really, because I think it would be more interesting if there are points where he learns from it, or learns something that influences him becoming Superman later on, so that because otherwise it feels a little distracting, at least to maybe not to the average moviegoer who doesn't really know a lot of the mythos, but to the comic book fans. At least it feels
as a paragon of moral virtue and somebody that's always morally right. But I sort of give it a pass, especially compared to everything else in the movie. It's, I know I said it before, but it's just vagabond mode, man. This is like
right.
This is Birthright Superman, kind of. Maybe he doesn't do that in that comic, but
I don't think he does. No.
A quick shot of some remedy, remedying that would have been appreciated, but they didn't do it. Miserable detail about this scene is obviously any shirtless scene takes a lot of preparation.
Yes.
Cavill does not always look like that. There was a lot of news about The Witcher and him like fasting for 3 days, only having water for his tub scene.
And then you dehydrate, yeah.
Yeah, he was dehydrated. Like, insane amount of working out for this scene. He says he did no steroids. And when they were finally done with this scene and they called cut, Snyder had a bowl of ice cream ready for him. Okay?
No, that's
so,
fantastic.
I mean, it was obviously a lot of work. Anytime you see a dude like that, women too, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody that's like, well, women generally aren't getting shirtless. Anyway, I'm backing myself into a corner. Bikini shots and shit. There's so much work for that one scene. And there's a on the behind the scenes for Thor, for the first one, they ask I don't know if they even planned it. Well, they might have planned it, but they ask what's his name, Hemsworth. We might want you shirtless for this scene. And then they said, are you okay with it? And he says, his response was apparently, I've been working out for 9 months, mate. I'm ready to show this off. Hell yeah, I'm showing this off.
Yeah. But there is a lot of prep that goes into it, and it's hell for not eating for 3 days and dehydrating and everything, just so that the skin, the muscles basically show through the skin more. So that's kind of what I'm just talking about. But yeah, I mean, it's Cavill worked his ass off on this, and it shows. And especially, I think it's especially inspiring given that when he was growing up, he was overweight. And I don't think we covered this in the podcast before. Fat Cavill was his nickname among kids at the time. So for him to turn around from that to being basically on a ton of women's, hottest guy alive list during these times is a huge, step for him, I'm sure, but also just inspiration for those who, are dealing with those sort of issues when they're growing up. So
yeah, he's a gamer. I mean, he was a fat nerdy gamer, and now he's like hunk gamer dude. He's like posting pictures of him assembling his PC setup and shit, but still looking like that. It's like there's these memes like, he truly is the chosen one.
He and Manganiello. Manganiello's a huge Dungeons and Dragons
That's
guy.
the thing. I love that about these guys. Like, Manganiello is so insane about Dungeons and Dragons. It's so cool. It's like, the nerdy image of stereotype is it's like it's a stereotype. It's not true across the board.
Yeah. No,
So.
it's that. Remember that image where there was the bodybuilder being like, "I don't play Dungeons and Dragons," and then Manganiello, who looks even more ripped and buff than the other guy, is like, "I do."
Yeah.
And I'm like,
He
points
told
Manganiello.
It's not just it's not fake. It's real. Like you can
yeah,
tell.
both-
like he's
Both
super
Cavill
into
and
that
Manganiello.
shit.
Yeah. Like Affleck may be, behind the scenes a beer drinking Boston dude who just likes to party, but Cavill and Manganiello definitely seem like they're legit nerds and everything, and it's fantastic. I think
Affleck does seem to really like Frank Miller comics.
Well, he does
For
like
sure.
it, but
Yeah.
I'm saying, like, I don't think he's as big of a nerd.
He's not as nerdy.
He's very much on different talk shows talking about football and politics and stuff. Like it's you don't really see him guest starring on a lot of geek shows unless it's about a role that he played.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Let's see. So when it comes to Snyder versus critics on this whole stealing clothes thing, I'm going with critics because I feel like I get what they're talking about, and we kind of both had that idea of how that could have been glossed over more.
Yeah. Okay. So I have to vote now.
Yes.
Man.
Last time we had Wolfie when we were doing the Dark Knight stuff, so we kind of had a tiebreaker. But over here, if we disagree, then that's just a wash.
I'm gonna go with critics. I know it's a small thing, but since it could have been remedied with one quick shot or two at the same location, you know what I mean. It's just not. It could have been. Yeah, I'll go with critics. Vote for critics.
Snyder won, critics won. I would say that if you and I disagree, then maybe it's just a complete wash, where it doesn't go to either that way.
Okay.
Because I'm just like, maybe a point goes to both, but then I'm just like, doesn't that mean that when we agree that it should be two? So
Mulligan.
We'll just make that a wash. But anyway,
without a do-over.
Yes.
Okay.
Let's see. We get another flashback with Clark on a school bus, and this is where we get the infamous
Dick
phrase,
Splash, baby.
Dick Splash.
Something no one has ever called anybody ever. Goyer,
Thank you,
what's going on
David
with
Goyer.
the dialogue, man?
So,
Dick Splash.
Clark is called Dick Splash by the character Pete Ross, who is a bully in this continuity. However, Pete Ross is Clark Kent's best friend in Smallville.
Dipshit would have been way better and more natural.
Yes, it would have been. It would have been. So Pete Ross has an arc in this movie where he started out as a bully, but then Clark rescued him, and then he sort of looked out for him and sort of covered up that he was, he had these powers and stuff after that. So
he's saving people, though, baby. This is
exactly.
ultimately a good scene.
Yeah, Clark saving the bus after it crashes off a bridge feels a little reminiscent of the Smallville pilot, where Clark rescues a car that goes over the bridge in a similar way and pulls out the driver, and the driver in Smallville is Lex Luthor, and that's how they meet for the first time.
How horror fans, I'm stereotyping here, I know, but
right.
just to make a quick point, love blood, love gore. Obviously, one can assume at least. Genre conventions. For me, I mean, I love all those things too. But the genre conventions of a superhero picking up a car, I never get tired of it. Never get tired of it.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
No, it's fantastic.
It's just one of those things. It's a common object we all know, and it's all very heavy. Superman's first comic ever, Action Comics, picking up a car. It's just part of the DNA, and I'm a fan, and I'm sure most people are. But I just it's one of those things. Never get tired of it. Never.
Yep, exactly. So it's a great sequence just to show that Clark had the idea to use his powers to save people from the beginning, which is important. Also on the bus is Lana Lang,
who in
yeah.
the comics is very much, Clark's, girlfriend growing up. There was Lana Lang, Lois Lane. They just kind of took
House
the same initials.
of L?
Yes, they really like Lex Luthor.
What's going on here? I think
Yeah.
I read that that's just kind of a coincidence, and they just
think so, yeah.
snowballed from there. It doesn't really
Yeah.
mean much.
It is, yeah.
Yeah.
Lana in the comics is usually a white redhead girl. However, it looks like they also were influenced by the show Smallville, where Lana is brunette and not fully white. Kristen Crook in the show is half white and half Asian. Jaden Gold, I think, is the name of the actress who plays young Lana Lang. I believe she's Native American.
Oh, cool.
So not not traditionally white or redhead as well. So that's more
We
of a
need the
Smallville
Black
influence.
Panther of Native American, indigenous peoples. Whatever. I'm still trying to get the correct terminology.
I
but
doubt it's going to be Apache Chief from Super Friends. I just have a feeling that's not going to happen.
Oh man. Put something like that. Something culturally appropriate.
Him
Would
versus
be-
Egg Foo.
Well, yeah, the one with- coming soon from DC. We think it's a good idea. We are the DC delegation. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah.
Let's see. We meet the Kents for the first time. Well, not Martha Kent, but Jonathan Kent for the first time when we get back to the farm. Apparently, the Kent farm, the location in real life, is very much close to a house that I think, according to Snyder said that he found Bruce Wayne's house, quote unquote, close to the Kent farm in real life. And I think what he means by that is he saw a house that inspired the look of Bruce Wayne's place in Batman vs. Superman and Justice League, close to the Kent farm location. So
They
that's
could be
pretty
physically
cool.
close together in real life, but in the movie universe, they're separate.
Yeah,
totally separate
exactly,
anyway. right?
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, because he's in Gotham.
Yeah,
Let's see. Pete Ross's mom is reporting about what Pete saw Clark did, and they also described, quote unquote, the Fordham boy says this. The Fordham boy is in reference to Whitney Fordham, who is also from the TV show Smallville. He was Lana Lang's boyfriend in the first season.
Okay.
So again, there's a lot of Smallville influence. There's a lot of Dick Donner. There's a lot of modern comic stuff in this movie.
I was unaware of all that. Okay.
Yeah. So when Jonathan goes out to talk to Clark is hanging out at the Kent Farm truck, and apparently that same truck is in all three of Snyder's DC movies: Man of Steel, Batman vs. Superman, and Justice League, the Snyder cut at least.
Is it a Ford Model T?
I don't know what it is, but
I don't know
I
either.
wouldn't be surprised if Snyder owns that either, for that to show up in all
Probably
those.
he owns it. Yeah.
So, and then we get to our last and final Snyder versus Critics choice on something that was somewhat controversial even when it was in the trailer, which is when Clark's like, what was I supposed to do? Just let them die?
Maybe.
And Kevin Costner's Jonathan Kent was like, maybe.
I tried to defend that for a while, but then that's one of the things I gave up on. I just can't.
Well,
it being part of the Superman DNA and learning about Superman so much since then. He doesn't say yes, but it's still like he gets his morals from these people. That's a big part of it.
But this is what's funny, because I'm the reverse. When I first heard it, I was like, I don't know if I like that. And then when I rewatched the scene, I was like, you know what? It's better than, yeah, you're right. At least he doesn't say, yes, you should have let the kids die. But it also makes sense from the perspective of Jonathan Kent is a human being who doesn't really know what the right answer is. Like, it's like, there's no guidebook. Like, people joke there's no guidebook to parenting, but there's certainly no guidebook to parenting a kid with superpowers.
Right.
So it's like, I feel like the maybe encapsulates the feeling of, I don't know, because it's a dilemma. It feels bad either way. Either you rescue the kids and you expose yourself, or you don't rescue the kids and you let the kids die. Like, it's just like, I don't really know. I think maybe the answer maybe the better line would have been like, honestly, Clark, I don't know. Maybe that's what it
would have been better. It would accomplish the same thing. Yeah.
But to me, I'm like, that doesn't mean that Jonathan Kent's an asshole. It just
doesn't mean he's an asshole.
it's
not what you want to hear really in the Superman movie, but it's not. Yeah, it's I don't know. I don't feel great about it.
Yeah. So I kind of feel like this one's going to be a wash, because we sort of reversed positions from originally, because you defended it, but now you're just like, I don't know. And I originally was like, I don't know, but now I'm kind of defending it. So.
Okay, yeah.
Though I guess we both sort of agree that the better line would have been just him admitting he doesn't know.
Yeah. So I vote for critics on this one.
Okay. I guess this is going to be a wash then, because I'm just like, I don't know if I want to. Like, yes, that would have been a better line, but I don't think the maybe necessarily kills it for me personally.
Okay.
Which again is weird because it's not what I said.
You got to judge it on what's in there.
Yeah, I got to judge what's in there as opposed to just like this would have been better.
Yeah.
On it, so like that didn't throw me off as much as him stealing the clothes, for me personally.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So, anyway, so there we have it. We have at Snyder at 1 and critics at 1. So it's a tie, guys, which means that we're going to. There's definitely going to be a lot more opportunities next time. Obviously, we had to get through Krypton, and the Krypton stuff wasn't really as heavily criticized, except for the phallic part. But
people just went nuts over that. I always thought that was so silly, man.
Yes.
For me personally, like other stuff like neck snap and all that. Like, okay, yeah, let's talk
There's
about
a lot
that.
of other stuff. Yeah.
Not about these dick spaceships.
Yeah, but that is superhero stuff you should know. All right, so a few quick fan comments to go over. One was on our Batman training timeline where a user named the Birdman Dude saw that we had over 1,000 views, but there was like only one other comment other than his, and he's like, "Wow, no one commented." I'm like, "Yes, I know, Birdman Dude. Invite your other friends. Say something
friends about me.
Do us a favor. Tell all your friends about us." Because, like, seriously, I went through all that work for the training timeline thing, and like, people would enjoy it. I know Super Inframan, one of our fans, was a huge fan of that, and we've gotten some good comments, privately through that, but not a lot on the internet, at least on the YouTube page for that. But it seems to be a popular episode, though. Yeah.
Which one is it again?
The training timeline.
Oh yeah.
For the Batman,
one of
yeah.
the most popular ones.
Yeah, and now it's been updated since we covered Soul of the Dragon. So slightly updated because there's only one training instance, but still. So yeah, thank you for at least being one of those people to comment.
You should release. I'm putting you to this now, but sorry to drop this on you, but you should release like a whole diagram of this timeline.
Oh my god, I should. I have it all written out. I should just put it in like a more visually arresting.
Yeah.
We'll put it on the website or something, but that'll be cool.
It could just be like Bruce trains here with this person, trains here with this person, this time to this time.
You mean like on a map or something?
On like an actual timeline, like
I see.
From past to present.
Yeah.
Some version in that way. Yeah, a little bit more visual.
Okay.
That'd be cool.
I think that'd be cool. So that's cool. Thank you, Birdman Dude. And yes, tell all your friends about
Birdman
us.
Dude. Yes.
Next is X-Men Fan 95, who made a comment on our old Hot Package episode video about the X-Men Danger Room. X-Men Fan 95 says, quote, "I'm doing my Danger Room inspired by the animated series." So I guess this X-Men fan is creating their own diorama. That's awesome. Let us know how it goes. You can feel free to send us the pictures over at superhousepodcast@gmail.com to let us know how that turned out.
We do want to do X-Men episodes eventually, but
yes,
we just got to get to a few things before then.
Yes. So, X-Men doesn't have a major release this year like Snyder does, so we'll just have to wait for a bit.
They had New Mutants, which I have not seen. There's a few that I don't
I haven't
see.
either. No, yeah. And then last one is our friend Walter the Wobot, who commented on our Wonder Woman 84, saying, quote, "Watching you guys talk about Wonder Woman 84 is more enjoyable than watching the actual movie by a large margin, large and capitalized. In capital letters." So thank you, Walter. Thank you for tuning in, and at least we got to entertain you and feel that the Wonder Woman 84 experience was worth it, just so you could hear our take on it. So
yes, thank you for the comment again, Walter.
Thank you very much. All right. Over to you, Andrew.
Okay, so let's all thank all together SDCC Productions, Robert Schumann, Kooky Noms, Matt Herring, Elijah B, Shamrock Balls, Aaron Willett, Ian H, Dan D, Leom O, Super Inframan, and Douglas Beep. Those are our Patreon supporters and other supporters. Speaking of Patreon, we're at patreon.com/superherostuffpod. We have the $1 tier and the $5 tier. $1 tier gets you the shout out. $5 tier gets you a whole other show every Friday. Cancel anytime. Then we have Superhouse merch, a lot of it drawn by Wolfie, the Ben Man and the Indeed Wizard have they have merch at superhousepod.redbubble.com. Leave us a review on iTunes. That'd be great. And send us a phone bumper, please. We actually do need some new ones. No offense to everybody that sent them. 1,000 thanks to everybody that's already sent us one, made us one. Awesome. But it'd be cool to get some new ones in. So, if you could use your voice recorder app, record a little something, and then send that to superhousepodcast@gmail.com, and then you can be on the show, usually in that middle section there. If we get more and more, we might put them in different locations, maybe, depending on how we break up the show. Some podcasts kind of break up their show more than we do. And not just ads, like sometimes just like music here and music here. So I'm thinking about all that kind of stuff. But anyway, I'm Thunderwolf Drew on Twitter and Instagram. I have my other more Japan culture, Japan language, Japan video games centric YouTube channel. Just search for Thunderwolf Lives on there. It's youtube.com/user/ThunderwolfLives. And ThunderwolfLives.com is my portfolio website and all that. Take a look there if you want as well. And if you're not on YouTube, check us out on YouTube. We're youtube.com/user/superhero-stuff-pod. And I think that's it for me. Ben.
Nice. You can follow us on Twitter at SuperhousePod, as well as Instagram at SuperheroStuffPod. You can also follow me on Instagram at Ben1Writer. And you can also follow my cat, my son, Alfie. Alfie is my ginger cat who wears a bow tie because he's Alfred Pennyworth. So you can follow him at Alfie Pennyworth Cat. He's just starting out, so there's not a lot of posts as of this recording, but there'll probably be more by the time that this is released. If you guys like cats,
Not many people know about this, but ginger cats, unlike humans, do have souls. So.
Yes, they do. Also, you can, there's Andrew is holding up the Man of Steel stuff. My website is up and running, and so you guys can check me out at ben1writer.com, where I list out different script stuff as well, and I should have, at least by the time of this release, my Gotham spec up for anybody who was a fan of the show who wants to read my take on things. So check it out and let me know what you think by commenting on one of our YouTube videos. And I think that is pretty much it for me.
This is Andrew signing off. Dick Spaceships!
Dick Splash!